Family, let me tell you something today. You're not here by accident. You didn't stumble across this moment. God orchestrated it. If you're feeling shaken, if your world is turning upside down, if you're fighting battles no one else sees, it could be because you are chosen. And before your final spiritual awakening, there are symptoms, not of sickness, but of spiritual transformation. See, before the birthing of purpose comes the pain of preparation. What you're feeling, it's not the end. It's the beginning of something divine. There comes a moment in every chosen person's life when the crowd starts to thin. People who once stood close begin to feel distant. Conversations grow quieter. Invitations disappear. You begin to notice the silence around you, and at first it's confusing. You wonder what you did wrong, why those you loved seem unavailable, and why you feel so cut off from the world you once knew. But this isn't rejection. This is divine redirection. God often pulls his chosen ones into isolation before elevation. He has to clear the room before he reveals the blueprint. Too many voices can distort the sound of his instruction. And when you are called to something great, you must be conditioned in a space where only his voice matters. This is not the loneliness of abandonment. This is the holy separation of preparation. In isolation, God strips away the noise. You'll find yourself alone in a room, but not alone in the spirit. It's in the quiet places that God speaks loudest. He doesn't shout over the chaos. He waits for it to die down. And sometimes he shuts doors not because he's angry with you, but because he's jealous for your attention. He knows the power of undivided focus, and he will protect your purpose, even if it means removing comfort. During this season, even relationships that once felt divine may fall apart. Not because those people were evil, but because they can't go where God is taking you. Some connections are seasonal, others are sacred, and it takes time alone with God to discern the difference. When you're constantly surrounded by people, you can confuse companionship for confirmation. But isolation reveals what's real and what's not. There will be days where you crave the crowd again. You'll scroll through your memories and wonder why joy once felt so easy. But don't let nostalgia make you question your now. God doesn't call you out to hurt you. He calls you out to heal, refine, and reveal. When you're chosen, he'll shut down the noise to develop your spiritual ears. He'll remove the familiar so you can discover the foundational. Many in Scripture were called out before they were called up. Moses had to flee Egypt before he led the Exodus. Joseph was thrown into a pit before he stepped into the palace. David was anointed in secret before he fought in public. And Jesus himself went into the wilderness before he walked in power. Isolation is not a detour. It's a divine classroom. And every chosen one must be taught in silence before being trusted with sound. In this space, you may feel invisible, even forgotten. But what feels like divine neglect is actually divine nesting. God is hiding you, protecting you from premature exposure. He's developing the oil within you so that when the spotlight comes, you don't burn out, you burn bright. What he's doing in private is preparing you to withstand what others can't see. Your habits begin to change in isolation. What used to satisfy no longer feeds your soul. You develop new cravings for truth, for depth, for encounters that can't be found in shallow spaces. And it's there in the stillness that God rewrites your desires. He purges the counterfeit so that he can pour out the authentic. You're no longer drawn to what entertains the flesh. You begin to hunger for what edifies the spirit. This isolation won't always feel holy. There will be wrestling. There will be questions. There will be nights where the silence feels suffocating. But even in that pain, God is present. He does some of his deepest work in the dark. He molds, heals, shapes, and strengthens where no one else can see. And when you emerge, you won't just come out healed. You'll come out transformed. What feels like a season of loss is actually a season of learning. And while others see you withdrawing, heaven sees you awakening. God is not punishing you. He is planting you. And though isolation may look empty, it is filled with the raw material of purpose. The crowd may be gone, but the calling is being carved. There comes a point in every chosen soul's journey when the greatest battle doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. You start to feel a deep unrest that doesn't make sense on the surface. You can be surrounded by peace, yet feel torn apart inside. What once felt natural now feels burdensome. The things that used to comfort you now convict you. This is not confusion. It's not weakness. It's inner warfare, and it's a sign that your spirit is waking up. When you've been chosen for something greater, God begins to turn up the volume on your conscience. Suddenly, mediocrity becomes intolerable. Sin becomes heavier. The things you once brushed off now weigh on your soul. You can't enjoy what others indulge in without feeling that holy agitation. This is not God condemning you. This is God separating you. He is creating distance between your old nature and your new calling. You'll find yourself caught between two identities, who you were and who you're becoming. One voice whispers comfort, the other cries out for change. The flesh wants to return to familiar patterns, but the spirit refuses to settle. It feels like you're being torn in two, but in truth, you're being refined into one whole being. God is not trying to destroy you. He's drawing the battle lines between your destiny and your distractions. The deeper your calling, the more intense your conflict. You begin to feel burdened for things others ignore. You notice sin more clearly. You sense spiritual warfare in conversations, in decisions, even in silence. It's not paranoia, it's perception. Your discernment sharpens, your sensitivity deepens, and that sharpening can feel like breaking. But breaking is part of birthing. As you wrestle, you'll start to question yourself. Why am I feeling this? Why do I cry when no one else is crying? Why can't I laugh at what they laugh at? It's because your spirit no longer belongs to the world. It's been claimed by the kingdom. What grieves God now grieves you. And while others remain numb, you are awakening. That's why the conflict feels constant. It's the clash between light and darkness happening inside your very soul. You might try to quiet the struggle by going back to what's easy, the old habits, the old crowd, the old comfort zones, but it won't work. God won't let you go back the same way. What once satisfied will now stir up discomfort. What once felt right will now feel wrong. That's not shame. That's the Spirit shifting your soul out of alignment with anything that doesn't match your assignment. The enemy will try to use this inner war to make you feel unworthy. He'll whisper that you're fake, that you're double-minded, that God couldn't possibly use someone so conflicted. But remember, the presence of conflict is not the absence of calling. It is the evidence of it. The enemy doesn't fight what doesn't threaten him. If there's a war within you, It's because there's glory on you. This internal tension can bleed into your everyday life. You'll feel exhausted without moving. You'll sit in rooms full of people and feel spiritually out of place. You'll question decisions you once made with ease. It will feel like every moment demands deeper thought. That's because God is training your discernment through discomfort. He's making you alert. He's teaching you to pause, to pray, to perceive before proceeding. There's a holy frustration that comes with this stage. You want to move forward, but your feet feel heavy. You want peace, but your heart is in pieces. You want clarity, but everything feels cloudy. And still, God is working in that tension. He is forming a new standard in your spirit. He's removing tolerance for the trivial. He's cultivating a hunger for what's holy, even when your flesh fights it. As this war continues, you'll start to realize that you're not who you used to be, and yet, you're not fully who you are becoming. You're somewhere in the middle, in the in-between space where transformation brews. And it's in this inner battlefield that the chosen are truly forged, not in crowds, not on stages, but in the secret place where God and your spirit wrestle. For who gets the final say? There comes a stirring in the soul that no accomplishment, no relationship, no material gain can settle. It's an ache that can't be named and a tension that refuses to be ignored. You try to find satisfaction in the routines that once fulfilled you, but now they feel empty, like eating food with no flavor. There's nothing wrong on the outside, but everything on the inside is crying out for something more. This is divine discontent, not caused by lack, but by the weight of unseen potential pressing against the walls of your soul. This restlessness isn't about being ungrateful or impatient. It's a spiritual signal. It's heaven tapping on your chest saying, you were made for more than this. Your spirit can feel the size of your calling, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. So you walk through life with this sacred unease, like a traveler who knows they're not home yet. You wake up with questions that weren't there before. You move through the day with a hunger that nothing on earth seems to satisfy. You may try to explain it to others, but they won't understand. How can you be restless when everything looks fine? How can you feel lost when you're so blessed? That's because what's happening in you is not about what's around you. It's a divine shift. God is disrupting your comfort to prepare you for calling. He is allowing you to feel the dissatisfaction so you don't get stuck in what was meant to be temporary. You start looking at your surroundings differently. Your job doesn't fit like it used to. The conversations feel shallow. The entertainment that once distracted you now irritates you. It's not arrogance. It's not boredom. It's awakening. Your soul is remembering who it is. And what was once enough now feels too small. This is God stretching your spirit to match the size of your next season. Even your prayers start to change. You stop asking for things and start asking for clarity. You stop begging for blessings and start seeking purpose. You sense that there's a shift coming, even if you can't see it. And that tension, the space between where you are and where you know you're called to be, it becomes almost unbearable. But it's holy, it's sacred, because in that tension, God is building spiritual momentum. You begin to crave solitude, not to escape people, but to confront yourself. You start asking deeper questions. What am I here for? Why does this no longer satisfy me? What is God trying to show me You realize that what you thought was discomfort is actually divine alignment. It's not that God left you, it's that He's pulling you forward. And what you're feeling is the resistance of destiny pressing through the boundaries of routine. During this time, you may find it hard to rest. You'll lay down but feel wired. You'll go through the motions, but your heart won't engage. That's because your spirit is in motion, even when your body isn't. It's searching, it's reaching, it's leaning forward into the future, trying to make sense of why the present no longer fits. You're not being drained. You're being drawn. There's something in you that refuses to settle for a life that doesn't reflect the fullness of your calling. It's a holy dissatisfaction, one that pushes you to evaluate everything. You become less interested in applause and more hungry for assignment. You begin to understand that peace doesn't always come from comfort. Sometimes it comes from obedience. And until you step into the place God is calling you to, your spirit will not let you fake fulfillment in places you've outgrown. The people around you might not notice the shift, but you feel it. You feel the weight of what's next, even while carrying the responsibilities of what's now. You feel God tugging on your soul in the middle of routines. You hear His whispers between meetings. You see signs in ordinary moments. Everything becomes a nudge, a signal, a confirmation that you can't stay here, not mentally, not spiritually, not emotionally. You might try to shake it off. You'll tell yourself you're just tired, just overwhelmed, just distracted. But deep down, you know better. You know this isn't a phase, it's a pull away from comfort and toward calling, a pull away from noise and toward presence, a pull away from surface and into depth. And the more you try to ignore it, the louder it becomes, until you finally acknowledge that what you're feeling isn't restlessness at all. It's the voice of destiny waking you up. There are moments when everything you've built seems to fall apart in front of your eyes. What once felt stable now feels shaky. The things you depended on start slipping through your fingers. Plans collapse, doors close, and everything that used to make sense begins to unravel. You look around and wonder how you got here, how something that felt so right now feels so broken. These moments are not punishments. They are sacred disruptions sent to make room for something greater. Sometimes the breakdown isn't gradual, it's sudden. Out of nowhere, you find yourself in emotional, spiritual, or even financial crisis. You can't breathe the same. You can't think the same. You don't move through life like you used to. What once gave you joy now brings confusion. This isn't just pain, it's a tearing, a ripping away of what's been holding you back, even if you didn't know it. It's uncomfortable. It's humiliating. But it's also necessary. There are times when God has to allow everything to fall apart so that He can rebuild you correctly. You may have been building a life, but it wasn't aligned with His plan. You may have been walking a path, but it wasn't leading to your purpose. And because He loves you too much to let you settle in dysfunction, He shakes the foundation so He can lay a new one. And the shaking can feel like destruction, but it's actually divine construction. In the breakdown, your strength will feel like it's failing. The things you used to manage with ease suddenly feel impossible. You'll wake up with heaviness and go to sleep with questions. Your faith will be tested, not in theory, but in real time. You'll wonder where God is, why He's silent, why He's allowing this. But It's in the silence that he's working. It's in the confusion that he's clearing. He's not absent. He's underground, shifting roots so that your next season has a deeper foundation. Often, we don't realize how much we've attached our identity to what's temporary. A title, a relationship, a routine. So when those things break down, it feels like we are breaking. But what's really breaking is the illusion that those things defined us. God is removing false anchors. He's cutting ties to what can't go with you into your calling. It hurts. It's lonely. But it's the only way to be free. During these breakdowns, it can feel like everything is being taken from you. But in reality, things are being released from you. The weight, the fear, the performance, the image, all of it begins to fall off. And while others may only see your losses, heaven sees your liberation. You are not being emptied to be abandoned. You are being emptied to be filled again, correctly, completely, and for a higher purpose. You may try to fix things, to hold on tighter, to keep the pieces together. But no matter how hard you try, it keeps slipping. That's because the grace has lifted from what once was. When God removes his hand from something, it will no longer sustain you. And as painful as it is, you're better off letting go than clinging to what God has already left. He's not asking you to repair it. He's asking you to release it. In the middle of the breakdown, you'll discover the truth about yourself. You'll realize how much you were relying on things other than God to keep you afloat. You'll see your patterns. You'll face your fears. You'll confront your hidden wounds. And while it feels like everything around you is falling apart, the truth is that you are finally coming together. Not in comfort, but in clarity. There is a sacredness to rock bottom. It's the place where ego dies and surrender begins. It's where you stop asking God to bless your plans and start asking him to show you his. You stop praying for rescue and start praying for revelation. You stop pretending to have it all together and finally allow yourself to be rebuilt from the ground up. And what God rebuilds, no man can shake. What he restores, no enemy can take. Everything may feel broken, your plans, your peace, your confidence, but it's in that very place of brokenness where breakthrough is born. Because before God launches you, he breaks what binds you. And what looks like a breakdown in the natural is often the beginning of breakthrough in the spirit. There comes a shift in the life of the chosen, where the noise of the world grows quieter and the whispers of God grow louder. You begin to notice a spiritual sensitivity you never had before. Things you used to overlook now stir your spirit. What used to seem normal now makes you pause. This isn't anxiety. It's not overthinking, it's divine awareness. God is tuning your ears to his frequency. He's fine tuning your soul so you can hear him with clarity in a world full of distortion. The more he draws you in, the more you'll feel this sensitivity in your everyday life. You can't scroll like you used to. Certain conversations make your spirit uneasy. The content that once entertained you now burdens you. It's as if something in you has awakened, and once it's awake, you can't go back to sleep. God is sharpening your spiritual senses. You're not imagining it, you're perceiving it. When God is preparing to use you on a deeper level, he gives you ears that hear differently. You start discerning meaning in moments others overlook. A verse hits deeper. A sermon feels personal. A casual conversation turns into a confirmation. This sensitivity isn't meant to overwhelm you. It's meant to guide you. It's evidence that you're no longer walking by sight alone. You're beginning to walk by revelation. You'll notice a change in how you respond to the Spirit. You won't be able to brush off conviction. You won't be able to quiet that nudge in your chest. What once felt like a passing thought now feels like a divine message. You'll hear His voice in unexpected places, in a quiet car ride, in a line of a song, in the stillness before sleep. It may not be audible, but it's unmistakable. His voice leaves a mark on your soul. This heightened sensitivity often leads to stillness. You start craving quiet not just to rest, but to listen. The distractions you used to tolerate now feel too loud, too much. You want space where your spirit can breathe. You hunger for silence because silence becomes sacred. In the hush, you feel God speaking. In the waiting, you sense Him moving. He no longer feels distant. He feels deeply present, even in the invisible. You'll also start recognizing spiritual warfare more clearly. What used to feel like bad luck, you now identify as attack. What used to seem like coincidence now feels like warning. The Holy Spirit will begin to highlight what's hidden. He'll point out red flags before danger arrives. He'll give you an inner knowing that surpasses logic. People around you may not see it, but you'll feel it in your bones because your discernment has been activated. This season can be overwhelming if you don't know what's happening. You may feel emotional for no reason, burdened by things others laugh about, moved to tears during prayer or worship without understanding why. That's because your heart is softening, your spiritual eyes are opening, and your soul is aligning with the heart of God. He's not just speaking to your ears. He's speaking to your entire being. You may find yourself pulling away from noise, not out of pride, but preservation. You recognize how precious your peace has become. You can't afford to let just anything or anyone into your space, not because you're better, but because you're becoming sensitive to what carries life and what carries confusion. This sensitivity teaches you that not every open door is divine, and not every opportunity is from God. This is the stage where obedience becomes more urgent. You feel the consequences of ignoring the Spirit more intensely. Delayed obedience starts to feel like disobedience. You hear God calling you to forgive, to move, to release, to grow, and every time you hesitate, the unease grows stronger. That's not guilt. That's spiritual alignment pulling you back into purpose. You begin to realize that every whisper matters because every whisper carries weight. As you walk through this, your relationship with God deepens in a way you can't explain. It's no longer about religious routine. It becomes relational intimacy. You don't just talk to God. You listen for Him. You look for Him. You wait on Him. And your ability to recognize His voice becomes your compass in the chaos, your anchor in the storm, your strength in the unknown. There comes a time in the journey of the chosen when the attacks don't come from one place. They come from every direction. It feels like the moment you catch your breath in one area, something breaks loose in another. It's not just your finances, it's also your health. It's not just your friendships, it's your focus. The pressure builds from all sides, and you start to wonder, why now? Why all at once? But what you don't realize at first is that this is the enemy's last effort to break what God is about to build. When God begins to elevate you spiritually, hell takes notice. The moment you start walking in obedience, the atmosphere around you shifts. The enemy doesn't waste his best weapons on people who pose no threat. The moment you become a vessel, a mouthpiece, a light, the attacks intensify. And not just from expected places. Sometimes, the attacks come from those closest to you. From people you never thought would switch. From environments you once felt safe in. That confusion isn't random. It's strategic. You find yourself emotionally drained from conversations that didn't used to affect you. You lose your appetite for things that once brought joy. You start questioning your path, even when God already confirmed it. The pressure is relentless because it's not just physical, it's spiritual. The enemy is trying to cloud your mind, distort your vision, and weaken your faith. Not because you're falling off, but because you're rising up. These attacks don't always come in the form of tragedy. Sometimes it's delay. Sometimes it's distraction. Sometimes it's subtle compromise. A little shift in your values. A little slack in your prayer life. A little bitterness you didn't deal with. The enemy is patient. He'll use exhaustion and emotional fatigue to lull you into spiritual slumber. And before you know it, you're carrying weight that isn't yours and fighting battles you were never meant to entertain. You may try to pray it away, fast it away, even shout it away. And while prayer is your weapon, God sometimes allows the storm to continue so that He can train your hands for war. He lets the fire surround you so you learn how to walk through it without being burned. You're not just surviving, you're being shaped into a warrior. These attacks are stretching your spiritual muscles and growing your authority in unseen realms. Sometimes the attack will come through fear. Fear of failing. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of losing everything. And when fear comes in waves, it can paralyze you. But fear is always the echo of a lie. And lies gain strength in silence. That's why you feel the urge to isolate. Not because you're weak, but because the enemy wants to get you alone with your doubt. But even there, God meets you. Even there, your spirit knows how to cry out. You may notice that people start turning on you for no reason. Misunderstandings multiply. Your name gets twisted. You're accused of things you never intended. It's not personal, it's positional. The enemy is using people to get to your peace. Because if he can steal your peace, he can shake your confidence. And if he can shake your confidence, he can delay your obedience. That's why your name comes under fire right before your purpose comes into focus. There's also the mental warfare, the second guessing, the heaviness in your chest, the constant feeling that something's wrong, even when nothing is visibly happening. It's spiritual pressure disguised as anxiety. But don't miss the pattern. The closer you get to breakthrough, the louder the resistance becomes. That's because breakthrough always stirs opposition. The darkness tries to reinforce its ground when light starts to pierce through. You'll be tempted to fight back in the flesh, to clap back, to defend yourself, to retaliate. But that's part of the trap. The enemy wants to pull you out of character, so you forfeit your covering. But when you stay in the Spirit, you stay in position. You may not see it right away, but your silence is making noise in the spiritual realm. Your endurance is bruising the enemy more than your words ever could. And while the attacks feel personal, they are deeply prophetic. The weight is confirmation of the assignment. The resistance is proof of the calling. You're not cursed. You're chosen. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. The enemy wouldn't be coming at you this hard if heaven wasn't about to move through you in a way that shakes the gates of hell. There is a moment after the pain, after the pressure, after the spiritual warfare, when something unexpected begins to rise within you. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with fanfare. It slips in quietly, like a whisper in a storm, and settles deep in your soul. It's a strength that doesn't match your situation. A calm that defies your circumstances. You look around and realize you should have broken down by now. You should have lost your mind. You should have quit. But somehow you're still standing. This is not natural. This is supernatural endurance. You can't explain how you made it through what crushed others. You can't explain why the fear didn't consume you, why the betrayal didn't destroy you, why the delay didn't derail you. Something within you refused to let go. Something unseen carried you through sleepless nights, unanswered prayers, and the weight of silence. This is the evidence that God is with you, not in the absence of problems, but in the presence of peace in the middle of them. There's a difference between surviving and enduring. Survival is clinging to life, barely breathing, but dragging yourself through the day. But endurance is different. Endurance is sustained strength. It's not just staying alive, it's moving forward with purpose. It's standing when everything pushes you to fall. And when you're chosen, God gives you endurance that is not rooted in how you feel, but in who He is. He becomes your reservoir when your resources are empty. You begin to notice that storms don't shake you like they used to. The enemy tries the same tricks, but they don't hit the same. You've been through enough to know that God won't leave you now. There's a holy confidence that begins to grow in your soul. You don't need all the answers anymore. You just need His presence. You don't panic at every delay. You trust His timing. That's not denial. That's peace that passes understanding. You may still cry, still wrestle, still feel the ache of waiting, but it doesn't break you. It humbles you. It refines you. You walk slower, but with more purpose. You speak softer, but with more authority. You trust deeper, even when you don't see results. This peace isn't fragile. It's forged. It's been tested in fire and proven unshakable. It's the kind of peace that makes people wonder how you're still moving forward with your head held high. This kind of endurance comes from surrender, not striving. It's not about working harder. It's about letting go and letting God hold what you can't carry. It's about resting in promises when the facts don't line up. It's about knowing that your weakness is not a liability. It's an invitation for God to show His strength. The more you release, the more He fills. And what He gives isn't temporary relief. It's sustaining grace. You stop measuring peace by how smooth life is. You start recognizing peace as that quiet voice that says, I'm with you, even when the path is uncertain. Peace becomes your portion not because you escaped the battle, but because you discovered the one who fights beside you. And with Him, the pressure can't crush you. The fire can't consume you. And the waiting can't wear you down. People around you begin to see the shift. They may not understand it, but they notice it. You're not as reactive. You're not as easily shaken. You move with discernment. You carry stillness. It's not because life got easier. It's because your spirit got anchored. You've learned the secret of supernatural endurance, that God's presence sustains you in places where motivation runs out. What once triggered you now teaches you. What once overwhelmed you now matures you. You stop trying to control everything and start leaning into the rhythm of grace. That doesn't mean it's painless. It means you found peace that exists in the pain. You may still feel the weight of the journey, but it doesn't crush you anymore. You carry it differently, not in your own strength, but in His. You realize you're not just surviving spiritual warfare. You're growing through it. You're not just enduring the pressure. You're being transformed by it. You've been through the fire, but you didn't burn. You walked through the flood, but you didn't drown. And now, what lives in you is greater than what comes against you. You've entered a place where peace is no longer something you chase. It's something you carry. Beloved, if you're feeling these symptoms, you're not losing your mind. You're stepping into your mission. You're not broken. You're being built. You're not being punished. You're being purified. You're not being forgotten. You're being formed for something greater. The final spiritual awakening isn't just about what's coming to you. It's about what's waking up inside you. Your destiny isn't ahead of you, it's already within you. So hold on. The pain has purpose. The fire has favor. The process has power. And when the awakening comes, you won't just survive, you'll rise